Hello and welcome to a new series of Dinis Guarda YouTube podcast powered by intelligenthq.com, Open Business Council and citiesabc.com, and now as well with a new platform that will come, freedomx.com, that you're going to hear in the future. So in this series, we trying to look at the future of humanity, to look at the people that drive the future and the present. And in the profiling of people, we've been bringing some of the most influential and as well disruptive, but as well innovative personalities in the world. And today will be a continuation of that. So today I'm quite excited to welcome on board our Lenchner, that is the CEO of Bright Data. And we're going to be talking about Bright Data, that is a very influential data company based out of Israel. And I'm going to talk as well about his background in data, AI, and all the different things that he's been doing. So Or is kind of leading this company that is right now one of the leading data companies worldwide, working with big organizations and brands that are known from all of us. Or as well is an official member of the Forbes Technology Council. And since becoming the CEO of Bright Data, has been expanding the company infrastructure, solutions and services, and an online data collection platform that looks and completes web transparency. So, thank you for coming to our series, first of all.
Thank you for having me, Dinis, and thank you for the introduction.
My pleasure. So I would like to talk about you. I talk a bit more about the company than about you. So let's start about you, and as well your education, and as well how do you come up to lead Bright Data?
Sure. So I'm a great believer in just being hands-on, and that's probably the best way to being educated. So I tried to start college, but after the first semester, I realized that I just prefer to build products. Most times it was internet-based products, and I had a few initiations of my own, and then I joined Bright Data at around 2015 as a product guy. I'm a product guy. That's what I love to do. Also today, even as acting as the CEO, I'm still enjoying most of my time touching, building, and working with our own products. I've been the head of product, VP product in the company when it right after it started, and I've been the CEO of Bright Data since around mid 2018. And this is where I am today. I'm very happy for what I'm doing. I guess we'll talk about what we're doing as a company. It's just a privilege to lead this company.
Let's go right now to Bright Data. So you crossed $100 million in December 2021. Congratulations. So that makes you a unicorn, not just by valuation, but actually by revenues. So can you tell us about the company for people that don't know so much, a bit how it started and what is going on right now?
Sure. So I'll start with the high level, what we're doing. I guess that we'll talk more about that, but just for people who understand, we're a software as a service company. We build software for one purpose: to help our customers to collect publicly available web data. So if the internet today is probably the largest database in the history of mankind, it means that you can probably do a lot with that resource as a company, no matter what you're doing, selling stuff online or developing medicine. This is a major resource you should take into consideration. We build the tools that allow you to extract the data you need, which is not an easy task. Just by, if looking on the sheer scale of the amounts of mountains of data that are there in the big internet, and also on the huge speed it's growing. We were founded in 2014. and we've been considered the industry leader in web data extraction ever since. Today, we serve almost every industry, every size company, from e-commerce and travel to the largest banks and finance firms, as well as leading security operations and marketing agencies, universities, NGOs, you name it, anything. We even work closely with the UN, for example. And we have overall over 15,000 customers today. This is, you mentioned the $100 million number. So last year we've passed $100 million in annual revenues, growing very fast. We haven't stopped there. We have over 350 employees today spread globally. The main office is here where I am in Israel, but we have other offices in New York, in San Francisco, and I think employees in 17 different countries. Just to close that high-level overview, I'll also add that around a year ago, we also established a pro bono organization, the name of the Bright Initiative. We drive positive change using public web data. Basically, we give the same tools Bright Data develop for free for organizations. Today, over 400 organizations or partners like universities and NPOs and even the UK government, for example, to help them to make positive social impact using that huge resource, which is web data.
Well, congratulations and impressive achievements. So I want to touch one of the things that you guys have been doing that is very impressive is the areas of the Bright initiative. So can you tell us about the Bright initiative?
Yeah, I think that I'll start from where it started, which it's actually one of these cool stories that you first understand that there's a huge need and then you think of the product. So when COVID started, March 2020, we were already a leading player in what we're doing. So a task force of scientists from Israel approached us. They had a theory, but they couldn't validate or prove or disprove the theory. Just based on their own thoughts, they wanted to see if we can help to validate the theory about early identification of COVID through web-based data. So me as the CEO, I was very excited about that. I took 2 engineers, put on my product management hat again. And the thing was that they wanted to know if there are enough people in the world that own a smart device that has a specific sensor that can check your blood, your oxygen levels in your blood saturation. Today, it sounds a bit strange, but just a reminder, it was in the early days of COVID. No one really knew anything about this virus. We took the challenge. In under 24 hours, we were able to get back with accurate answers only based on web data. And this was impressive. By the way, we realized that in average, we had it breaking down by country, but in average, 17% of the world population that holds a smart device, a smartphone, smartwatch, something like that, actually have that sensor embedded, and most of them don't know about it. We sent them back the information. They said, wow, amazing. He did it so fast based on public information only. And it actually, they continued with this theory. And I think the Israeli health minister also used this in one of their protocols in the early days. And it was that was like our wow moment or aha moment that we realized that we're doing really good as a commercial company, but you can actually use these powerful tools also for contributing to the society in various ways. So we just launched a new webpage offering people to approach us if they think that they should get these tools for free. We're willing to help. It was all related to COVID. And we got more and more and more approaches. And then we realized that, okay, if it's that good for COVID and we can actually have an impact on what's going on, we should probably open it for everyone. And this is where we established the actual organization. We gave it a name. We gave it a general manager, Karen, who's leading it since then. And it's just growing like crazy. You know, we have over 400 partners already using it for free for pretty amazing use cases. Universities that are using it for research purposes. We have, for example, one organization that is using it to fight online sex trafficking, all based on publicly available web data. You just need tools to collect this data and analyze it. So we literally know of lives being saved just by using our tools effectively, and in this case also for free. We're very proud about it.
It's a massive achievement. Congratulations for that. So, and I think from the initiatives right now, you have an indisputable leadership in terms of these areas. So I want to touch, before we go, I have a couple of questions related with this, but so before I go to the Bright Data initiative, I wanted to contextualize the company. So in terms of what you're doing, and I think it's very important because my audience is quite tech, but not everyone understands the levels of data and so forth that you and me discuss probably on a day-to-day level. But I would like to understand, so from this kind of layers, so for instance, in terms of Bright Data, you look for data for social media marketing, traveler aggregation, things like ad tech, advertisement technology, e-commerce, SEO monitoring, and a lot of different things from market research, stock market data, and they mentioned right now the humanitarian purposes, which is especially going on with this audits going on in the world. It's probably more important and more actually sensitive than ever. So let us look right now on the day-to-day operations of I think from the 15,000 customers you have worldwide. So what would be kind of one of two case studies that you would like to share with us? I think it's important because one of the things I try to do in our podcast series is demystifying technology and try to make people understand, especially take the myths, because I think my audience is normally sophisticated, but still I speak with a lot of from governments to, we've been having here actually ministers like the Minister of Science and Technology of Japan. But I think when we start talking on the layers of technology, people get lost. And normally then there's a lot of myths, there's a lot of confusions, and there's a lot of fake news, a lot of issues. So I would like to go from this kind of real work on data, because when I talk about data, we think about Cambridge Analytica and all the bad things and bad players and the issues with Facebook, but I don't look at the wonderful things we're using on day to day. And there's all the work of people like you and us working on the back to make sure that, like you said, COVID was a huge issue worldwide, but still we managed to keep the economy going. And if it would be probably in another century, I would probably a big percentage of humanity would die. So I would like to hear about that from the day-to-day operations of Bright Data.
Yeah, sure. I'll let you start with a high level, just so listeners will really understand what we're doing, and then I'll go deeper into specific use cases. It's always better to have it more tangible. So in the most simple way, I think that everyone can agree that any business owner would like to understand what their competitors are doing. Okay? Just in the physical world, there's this concept of secret shopper. I have a supermarket, you have a supermarket. I'm sending one of my guys to check how you price the tomatoes today because I want to price it lower. It's great. I mean, it's healthy competition. The consumer will enjoy for sure. I can sell all my stock of tomatoes. Easy. In the internet, it should work the same, but it's actually a lot harder because you and I, or sitting here and Dinis sitting there, we will see different content if we'll go to the same website right now. Now that's not there's segmentation that is based on the user. By the way, in most cases, it's a good thing. I prefer to see content that fits my character, and you will probably see something else. Probably the both of us will see the same content because we have the same areas of, of interest. That content can be prices of products, it can be advertisements, it can be news, it can be everything. And it's very, very hard to compete this way. So I think that, again, every business owner that is listening will agree that knowing what happens outside of my business, what my competitors are doing, what my consumers are thinking, all of these things are great. Everyone will like to have it. In the internet, it's just hard to get this information. This is the problem, the core problem that we solve. We develop these tools that we develop, essentially will go to a public data source, meaning a website, and extract the data in a way that you, the business owner, can read it, understand it, and most important, get action by it. So that's the high level. And I will give a few specific examples. So we are working, our largest use case by far is the e-commerce industry, online retail. We are working with the leading online retailers. And they, for example, they would like to know what are the prices on a competing website for that specific product. Obviously, it's not for that specific product, it's for these million products because we're talking about huge scales, right? And this is the type of data that we help them to extract. We give it to them in a format that their machines are able to digest, for example, JSON. And then their machines can get real-time decisions, for example, repricing that product 10% less to win more consumers over their competitors. Okay, so it all sounds, I think, pretty trivial in the sense of, it's needed, it's required, everyone would like to have it, but that data source, the internet, is so big, and it's sometimes so complicated to understand what you need and how to extract it, that you need automation and sophisticated tools like those that we're building in Bright Data. We're talking only about public information. So yes, for a price of a product, no, for pretty much anything that is behind the login. We won't go there. So it's all about public information. Everything that you as a consumer can see within your own eyes when you're going to a website, we're just automating that data extraction process in large scale. And I'm saying large, I mean extremely huge scales. We transfer tens of petabytes every month of data. Yeah.
Yeah, it's really impressive. I want to touch one thing on that because I of course, I can put my head how passionate and as well the person that is deep on this, but I would like to touch one area. So one area is that you guys are really definitely working with the biggest in the planet in these areas, and it's really impressive from the level of partnerships to the level of clients and as well the global. For instance, we mentioned about the Bright Initiative. You guys are working with the biggest universities in the world, and just to name a few, we have from Oxford to Princeton to Chicago to almost the biggest,
like 100, yeah.
Which is an impressive stuff. So I would like to understand. So and as not understand, but probably ask you. So from the challenge you are facing with data, and going a bit more right now into the details and the nitty-gritty. What are the challenges you're facing more? I think because, of course, right now, we're talking about data transparency. And in the last 5 years, you mentioned the COVID just highlighted digital, the digital economy just exploded because of COVID. It was already big. And for instance, you mentioned e-commerce. At the moment, commerce worldwide is e-commerce. So let's look at the challenge that you personally, as a CEO of a very unicorn data company, that you feel are the biggest ones that you're facing yourself and your company.
So if I may, I'll answer it in two parts. The first one is from the product side. I think that you'll find it interesting, and also from just a company perspective. From the product side, the challenge is, it's actually a generic challenge that is true almost for every use case or vertical. So also for every one of our customers. Even though the amount of data in the internet is growing, and I'm talking only about public data, not about your emails or whatever, or stuff that are behind logins and things like that, only about public data. Even though that this amazing resource that can save lives or build businesses is just growing and growing and growing, there are other companies that are just trying to lock this data and make sure that it won't be accessible if you're not that specific user that website wanted to see in their website. I'm talking about not things that are behind the login, just a standard e-commerce website that everyone are using. They will try to lock this data from automated software to extract software like ours. So instead, helping the world opening the data, increasing transparency, we are facing a challenge in which we need to constantly overcome these mechanisms that are trying to hide public data. Going back again to that analogy I used before, so we both have competing supermarkets, right? And now I'm selling my secret shopper to your place, and you have someone at the entrance that is blocking him from going in. Although he's a regular person, he just wants to understand what's going on in order to create more transparency, which creates more competition, which is always a good thing. It won't work in real life. Can you imagine that someone is not letting another person going into a supermarket, a public place? It's unheard of. This is how it actually works in the internet today, and it's not okay. So this is like the major challenge that we see. The software that we develop overcomes this challenge and is able to extract the data. This is why our products are so valuable for our customers. But just, as a whole, it's not okay to block access to public data. It belongs to the public. This is why it's called public data. As a company, I think that the challenges that we're experiencing are pretty much global for any company our size. It's the hyper growth that sometimes put your focus on the hyper growth, and which is not always the only thing you need to focus on. So company culture and company DNA is something that is very important for us. I think that it helps us to be as successful as we are. But as we grow faster and faster in the number of new employees, it's harder to keep that DNA. We just grew 130 employees since the last year. And it's a challenge to make sure that everyone are working the way we want them to work, also while being happy with their work. That's a challenge I see in other companies with other CEO friends that I'm talking to. It's still a challenge though, and we're trying to invest a lot of resources internally to solve it.
I think you touch very powerful elements, especially the ideas of keeping the web open versus the web closed. And I think that's probably the biggest challenge we're facing right now. So I still want to touch a bit more in terms of the way you deal with this. And I think it's particularly important for people listening to us. I would like to touch a bit more the way you manage the Bright Data initiative. So I think for people listening to us, I'll just read some parts that I prepared for the research. So the Bright Data initiative is a global program using web data to drive positive change, like you mentioned. And I think this is kind of, for me, one of the most important things for humanity, because we can use data to improve. If we really would be using data, it could be using data to improve academic research, environmental protection and public well-being, web transparency, and public policy. So can you tell us a case study that you did, or that something that you want to highlight about the Bright Initiative, and the website, we will put this on the notes, brightinitiative.com, because I think this is really an impressive work. And I know that it can really, as a data person myself, there's 350 organizations that join the organization. And we mentioned over 100 universities, but I think it's really a lot of things that I think for people need to know, instead of just sometimes looking at the fake news and criticizing, which is normally what I try to do, especially for young people in universities, is looking how we can actually use this to create new jobs and to create new opportunities. And I know that this is a big thing for us, for the present and future of humanity.
Yeah, I'll be happy to share another use case. So the one that I really like, because it's not something that is nice to have, it can actually save lives, is an Israeli NGO called Elem. That historically, what they were doing is to just be like a hotline for someone in stress to call and to talk to someone. These days, in this age, when everything is online, they are actually using us to proactively scan and extract data from social media and trying to identify online bullying, and then to understand how they can help the victim before it will be too late. Now, it sounds amazing, and I get the shivers when I'm talking about it, but think about trying to do that manually. Impossible. It's just impossible. Where do you start? With our tools, we're very proud that they can actually get the inputs that they need, or sometimes even in real time or near real time. And then they can actually give that person a call, tell him that everything will going to be okay, and help him, and literally save lives sometimes. This is something amazing, and I have to say that we were never able to think about these use cases for, maybe someone will use our platform to find online bullying and fight it. It's always coming, we're focused always in building the best product that we can in a generic way, that it will just work on everything, which is a challenge. And then, with this resource, with this tool, people are much smarter than us in what they're doing. So, if they have problems, maybe they'll come to us and they'll be able to tweak our products to solve their own problems. Like, for example, fighting online bullying. And this is, we're a for-profit company, but these things are the things that keeps us motivated to keep doing what we're doing.
That's amazing, and I think it's a great case study that shows as well how we can use data for a lot of positive and as well for changing things quite significant. So I want to touch right now, and we are in the last more or less 10 minutes. So one thing that I want to touch is we are in the epicenter of the Web 3.0, and of course we have right now the metaverse, which actually is one of the things that I've been talking a lot in here. And we have, of course, NFTs. We have a lot of things happening as we speak. So I would like to touch, especially, how do you see this kind of the Web 3.0, especially as a technologist, but as well as a leading data? Because one of the things that, for instance, looking at studies, and I want to highlight a study in particular that I like, but that it's kind of a dystopian to say less, is that, for instance, if you look at the percentage of internet costs that you're going to have, or the internet growth, is that at the moment we have the challenge with the cryptocurrencies consuming almost as much as energy as countries. But of course, when you talk about data, especially the Web 3.0, a study from VentureVit, and this is kind of not just my research, is the research that comes from big universities and so forth. It talks that the metaverse, for instance, will be a $10 trillion to $30 trillion opportunity in the next 10 to 15 years. And at the moment, it's already getting close to one. And I think very important thing for people listening to us, the metaverse is not just kind of the games and all these things. It's about all the immersive experience that you have, not just about Meta and Facebook, but everything, and anything that is related with data, let's put it that way, but immersive experience that we have online. But I think the point here is that the data centers that we'll need for this will have probably to figure, and this is a study from Intel, figure that 1,000 times increase in power is needed for our current collective computing capacity. So I would like to touch this first part of the question. So two questions here, sorry. But first one is, okay, how do you see this kind of growth of data and interactive data that we have? For instance, if you have a child playing and interacting in a game of Roblox, or someone working in Decentraland or even Second Life, that actually right now is still growing after all these years. But how do you see this? Because there's a real-time data interaction. There is the data when you are online searching for something. And then there's all the data bases of keeping these centers and data centers working. I'd like to see this from your technical hat first,
Sure.
and then I have a second one more broader.
Sure. So I'll start with a quick overview of how I understand Web 3.0. And I'm trying to stay away from the trends. Maybe they'll stick and they won't just be trends, but I'm trying to stay away from the trends like a specific cryptocurrency coin or NFT and things like that, just higher level. So Web 1 was just, reading the web. Web 2.0 was also contributing to the web. Now, today it's trivial, right? I'm posting something on social media, I'm contributing to the web, I'm changing it. I'm posting a blog, I'm enriching the web. Point 3.0, the way I understand it, is that I'm gonna also participate in the web. No, it's not necessarily means that I'm gonna stop living in the physical world and just wear these AR or VR glasses all day long, maybe. But it just means that some of my waking hours I will be spending inside the web. And we actually, as a company that doesn't specifically develop something for Web3, we did a webinar on Metaverse like a couple of months ago. And it was an amazing experience. I heard someone whispering in my ear, which was strange. I'm in a webinar and I realized that my avatar is standing next to other two avatars that are speaking. So I just went aside because they made noise. It was mind-blowing. So this is how I understand Web 3.0. What I do know for sure that translating those $10 trillion you mentioned from the VentureBeat, the study that they published, this translates to mountains of additional new data that will be created. This data will be collected. I'm sure about that. Why? That's the beauty. I don't know. I don't want to know. My customers will always know why they need that data. They needed to get better investment decisions. They needed to find online bullying just on the metaverse. They will figure it out. This will for sure push companies like Bright Data and others to build newer tools, more sophisticated tools to be able to extract that data that will be added on that new layer of Web 3.0 or inside the metaverse. That's clear. We're already there. We're thinking this way. We're innovating in this direction. It's not going to happen. It's already happening. It's just going to be much bigger.
No, completely. And I think this is really key element right now. It's kind of, this is going to be, I would say, probably the biggest challenge we have, or a challenge and opportunity. Like you said, is about well, there's a challenge, there's always an opportunity. So I want to, probably my last question, or and this is the second part of this, and this touches more what your initiative Bright Data is doing. So at the moment we have, you mentioned a lot of positive things around the internet, and normally people try to go around the negatives. So I don't want to go into the negatives, but I want to touch, actually recently, even in one of your tweets, you were talking about that. But I think one of the things I would like to do is, okay, you've been working a lot in the process of creating transparency around the internet, okay? And of course, we know that we are in the middle of a very terrible war, and I don't want to go to geopolitics now. But what I would like to understand as a technologist and as a CEO, and like you said, with a lot of people working under your management, which is as well a big responsibility for culture, for creating ethics around the areas of data. How do you see these parts of, with all the challenge we have, in one end, AI becoming much more mature, even if you are in the first inceptional part of the kind of, say, very superficial AI, but is already very disruptive if you use it for the wrong reasons. In the other hand, of course, the metaverse and all this kind of, I would say metaverse is not more than the next iteration of the internet, if you put it in a simple way, just more immersive, and you can use much more different sensorial, different things, metaversive, let's put it that way. And then in the other hand is all the ethics around data and the challenge we have with that. So how do you look at that, both with your hat and as well from a military, whereas well military educated, so you know as well that in military part you have to be very disciplined to get things done, but you have to follow rules and you have to follow different things. So how do you see this challenge, especially working with universities, working with big corporations, and as well making sure that the technology works?
Sure. So first of all, we're very proud to lead also that area of ethics in web data collection and fighting for transparency. And let me start by just stating the most important thing I think when we speak about that is that to trust the data that you receive as a customer, and this is where it always starts, you need first to trust your data about. It can be us in this case in the web data collection process, and also in other parts of the technology stack that you need to use when you're touching, working, digesting data. This is very basis, the very basis of reaching reliable data to base all your most critical decisions on. So you need to trust that you get the right data, and by to do that, you need to trust the vendor. Now, what I just said, we as a company, we have to prove it. It's not enough me saying that. And I think that it's a very strong thing in our company culture, in our company DNA, to first of all understand that we are accountable. We won't wait for any regulator to come up with the relevant specific regulation. It will always happen years after we already developed the technology. This is how life works. So it depends in us. We won't take any shortcuts. We'll do the right things, even if it means we'll earn less money. For this reason, for example, we've taken really, I can say, unprecedented steps to ensure that our products and infrastructure address the highest industry standards in anything that we're doing. I'll give you an example. We continuously check every single thing that is we are able to track and monitor. And during 2021, last year, we rejected over 830 cases or potential customers for simply not practicing the use cases we can support, even though everything is legal, everything is okay, but we don't perceive it as ethical. Or they weren't transparent enough when they came talking to us and went through our KYC, our Know Your Customer process that every customer using our technology need to go through. So first of all, it's a matter of a decision. This is what I'm saying. And it's not just, saying that we're doing it. I guarantee any one of the 350 employees that you wake up in the middle of the night and ask them something about the compliance and ethics practices, you'll get exactly the same answer from every one of them. And this shows that we're doing, not just saying. So that's just one example of, first of all, we won't work with anyone. We have our own standards. By the way, we're changing them as we learn. Sometimes we realize that we were too tough on something. Sometimes we realize that we were too soft on something else. And we have to adjust and modify very, very quickly. And we do see that that's our internal regulation. We do see that the external regulation, when it comes to data privacy, AI, is starting to catch up. We will always move faster, not just us, every tech company, because we identify the problem first and then we create the solution. But eventually, we see that the different governments are moving fast or trying. At least they have the understanding that things should be regulated. We are very proud to be a self-regulated company until there will be official regulation on some parts of our business. And we are also very transparent about our internal regulation. So we publish everything, so maybe others can learn, give us feedback, copy the way that we regulate ourselves. And we are very proud of it. So we have a bunch of other things that we practice, like bounty program, which is trivial, but not every company is doing that. And just being accountable and responsible for our own business, not waiting for someone else to tell us what's right and what's wrong.
Yeah, and I think this should be for people listening to us the same thing. I think we all need to do, because it's our world. It's controlled by us. I know that you have limit time, so I appreciate the time. So I would like, probably my last notes is, okay, for people listening to us, and we have a lot of people around the world, what would be your recommendations to deal with data, and especially both with your probably more technological hat and the responsibility? And I think you touched this, but I'd like to hear more on top level. And they will put all the links to your company and the different social networks as well, especially for the initiatives that we mentioned here, that I think everyone should look and get engaged.
Yeah. So as we are focused on that first stage of extracting the data, afterwards you have a bunch of things you need to do. You need to clean the data, you need to understand it, you need to put it in your databases to be able to actually run the queries on it. This is not what we're doing. We're focused on the first initial, most fundamental step of getting the data. And my tip or best practice, and it doesn't matter if you're coding for the last 20 years or you're not even an engineer, you're a marketing guy, whatever, start small with a small data set to validate your hypothesis first, then scale up. One of the largest headaches that I can see with our own customers that are not following this rule is that they think that they know what data they need, what the outputs are, in what format, how they should be parsed and all of these things. So then they try to get it in full scale from the first minute. Then they realize it's wrong, but sometimes it's too late. I mean, it's not too late, but it's a lot of additional resources you need to invest in order to fix it. It's always better. Same goes for product development. As a product guy, start with an MVP. Just take the minimum viable data set in this example. Make sure that it sits well on your theory, that it works, that you can integrate it into your other platforms that you're working on in the data world. And only then, I'm sure I can guarantee that it won't be good. Always, you will have to tweak it, do a few iterations, just not always because the data is not good. Sometimes your theory wasn't right. And only after you're confident that this is the type of data you need, scale up as much as you can.
A very wise part. So I want to thank you. I have a lot of questions, but I think probably we'll do a take two. Appreciate this. I especially suggest everyone listening to us to go to the Bright Data Initiative. So brightinitiative.com, because there's a lot of great things there that you can learn. That's as well, I understood that you do a lot of initiatives, both in education and pro bono. So for people listening to us, please enjoy, look at the success stories and media. And I think you can actually learn a lot. And well, thank you for this time. Or it's really a privilege to have you here. And hopefully we'll be the principal of a lot of others and creating awareness for data. Thank you.
Thanks a lot for having me, and also go to brightdata.com and play with the products and send me some feedback.
Do that. Thank you so much. Okay.